Blam. Hey guys, Professor Bill, Comic Book University. And holy crap, I got a guest. I'm also a half hour early. I had to deal with it. So I got the lawn gnome here. Lawnmower. Christ. Can we restart? This isn't live, is it? Oh
Yeah,
no, it's live.
it's live.
It's live. All right. Anyway, what's up, dude? How you doing, man? Comic Cal. When I first saw your name, I'm like, his name is Cal, right? Comic Cal, like Kal-El? Is that it? No, comical.
Yeah, it's a play on words. I'm one of those types of people out there that really likes to do those types of things. But yeah, it's been a good day so far. This is actually my third YouTube recording of the day. It's been all comics all day. I had a great conversation with two of my fellow Next Comical colleagues today. We discussed a
Shout him
comparison.
out.
Yeah, my buddies Andy and Cami. We had a discussion of comparing the Mark Miller comic of Superman Red Son to the DC animated film and discuss what we liked about them both and which one we thought was better. And then Andy had to jump and Cami stuck around and we did our newest episode of our DC animated live show where we discussed all of the 4 new DC animated film releases that we got this year. Really, really, really great discussions.
Wow. I've just been playing 7 Days to Die.
I wish I had the time to play video games, my friend. It's been a long time, but I can recall those days where I was spending hours upon hours playing Mega Man 2 on my NES, but those days are long gone.
Mega Man. All right. No, I never really played Mega Man, but yes, I had an NES and Super NES. I think that's when I stopped. Anyway, so what's up, dude? So what is that? Is that Minecraft? Is that a Minecraft pillow right there?
No, it's actually 8-Bit Link from The Legend of Zelda.
Get the frig out of town. Not even better. Even better. The best 8-bit stuff. All right. So what do we got here? Other than the obviously horrible garbage like Tim Drake Robin book, I like quite a bit of DC right now. Well, awesome, Jonathan, because here's the thing. I haven't been reading DC for a long time. DC still sends me their stuff. Every so often, I'll take a quick gander at it and be like, yeah, no, I'm just going to skip this stuff. It's just like, I think the last thing I read was the Deceased and the DC versus vampire stuff, which was actually pretty good. But then I started to realize the absolute best stuff out of DC is not in the main continuity. It's just all this Elseworld stuff. Like, what if this happened? What if that happened? What if those things happen? I'm like, what if you just told regular stories that I could read on a monthly basis?
Well, I'm going to definitely say you are not wrong at all in regard to that because
Oh, that
that was going to
sucks.
be, yeah. But I will still say that if I were to describe what's going on in DC Comics right now, especially if you tackle it on the surface, it's a hot mess. Everything that you hear on the news in regards to what David Zaslav is doing right now with Warner Brothers Discovery and all of these crazy events that are happening, like literally it sounds like it's happening on a daily basis, and to a certain degree as a comic book fan in general it's sad, but the real thing is, you're never going to get a true perspective of what's going on unless you really just go and see it for yourself. And you are going to be able to find gems down there if you really want to take the time to look hard enough. Now, I will definitely say that I am finding a lot more appeal in the mini and maxi series, but I am still finding some very big surprises in some of the ongoing series as well. And I definitely want to give my own personal perspective on said ongoing titles in as we continue this video.
All right. Well, first off, I think more people need to know who you are. So you've got a channel. I linked it,
Mm-hmm.
but in general, where do people find you?
Okay, well, I am on my 2 channels actually. I originally came to YouTube back in 2011, so I've been doing YouTube for going on almost 12 years now. My original channel, The Lawn Gnome, was a very different format than what it is right now. After doing the specific stuff that I was doing, which was doing lots of pop culture discussions and reviews, music, television, movies, Funko Pops, I just said to myself, after 10 years, this is a good place to just like maybe take it back, because I had intentions of becoming a father, and lo and behold, at the beginning of this year, actually the middle of this year, my wife and I had our baby girl. So that has been my major priority. But in 2019, I started getting back into comic books for the first time since 1997, and I was bringing some of that to the channel. And people were saying to me, I really love what you're doing here. I want to do more. So I started that. And other people were saying, I think we need to do your own channel. So I teamed up with 4 other content creators. And now I have the Lawn Gnome and my second channel, which is called That's Comical. There we do lots of different discussions. We talk about comic books from past and present. I give my statistics in regards to what I've been reading. We go into comic book movie reviews, comic book television reviews. We even do some manga and anime discussions. Myself, Andy, Shay, Cammy, April, we're all 5 fantastic people, and we always like to bring guests on every now and again. And it's been a little bit rocky just because of the fact that we've all been dealing with big life events this past year. But, they all are rooting for me about the fact that we're here. Because if things really do happen to bring more people to the channel, then let me just say we're all going to be having a team meeting and we're going to start cranking out some serious content. So good things are still on the way regardless.
Well, what I like, because I went back and I started looking at you, I saw you on Twitter, and I was like, that's an intelligent thing to say. I forget exactly what it was because it was like 3 weeks ago, and trying to book you to to talk is like trying to freaking find a ninja just to pull his teeth. So, what do you call it? But and when I looked at and I told you this already. We talked behind the scenes a
Of
couple weeks
course.
ago. Well, they don't know, but remember, this is live, man. There's people here, right?
Of course.
And I was just looking at your channel. I'm just like, well, son of a gun, this guy. Unfortunately, he doesn't have a lot of eyes on his channel, which is a crying shame because you've been consistent and you've been very detailed and you've been, how they say, don't dress for the job you have, dress for the job that you want. So clearly, I did. Um, they I'm also seeing like, act like you've got 1,000, 100,000 viewers, and you do. The way that you present your videos, you're excited. You haven't lost, a lot of thrill for comic books like I have as of late. I'm going to start going back and reading my old stuff again, as opposed to a lot of this new stuff just because of that. But I see that you're very consistent. You put stuff out all the time. You're happy about what you do. You actually look up statistics. You cite your sources, and I'm just like, this son of a gun needs a hell of a lot more eyes on his channel. And hopefully I can, manage to do that. Hopefully a couple more, people see you and have you on their channel also. And because I really do want to see you continue doing what you're doing and preferably to more eyes.
Well, I really appreciate that, Bill. I thank you very much. And I got to also say, you are one of the many YouTubers that I actually found when I started reading comics again back in 2019. And I said to myself, I didn't know that there was a really great comic book community here. And I really appreciate the diversity of thought in the community. And that's one of the main reasons why I said, I got to start doing this myself. It's the same reason why I started my own channel 12 years ago. Is like, I see people reviewing movies and I'm like, something, I love chatting about movies. I love giving my own perspective. I got to try this too. But one of the other things that I really like is that the community is a big thing here. And I really appreciate when people want to get together and go over these types of things. And yes, I always want to give credit where credit's due. And I guess the reason why I have so much enthusiasm now is because after not reading comics for so many years, let me just say I was playing a great deal of catch up because I knew there were some excellent stories that I did not read. And I said, I got to start reading them. So yes, I have read Superman, Red Sun. I have read Kingdom. I have read, not Kingdom Come. I read that back in 96 when I actually bought the books. But I read a lot of the more recent X-Men stuff, Hickman's Fantastic Four run. I've been reading a lot of Donny Cates's work on the indie side and in the Marvel side. I read, oh man, Blackest Night. When I finally got to read Blackest Night and all the great stories that came before it, like
That's
Sinestro
right,
Corps
because you
War,
stopped in 97. Crap. So
it was
greatest event.
a lot of work, and I am a Jeff Johns junkie. Let me just say that. And we're going to talk about him a little bit later too, because he's got some stuff in the works in DC right now, which makes me personally very happy.
Nice, nice. So you didn't just read Darkest Night, you actually read when he first started back up on the Green Lantern and resurrected Hal Jordan, right?
I went all the way back to Emerald Twilight. So I also read Day of
Fantastic.
Judgment. I read Sinestro Corps War. I read the
Yeah.
first couple of Green Lantern's Rebirth. I read Identity Crisis, Infinite Crisis, Final Crisis. I read Flash Reborn. I read a whole ton of stuff. And
Nice.
I want to do it all over again because it was just that amazing. I really, really do.
It is. It's funny. I think it was like maybe a month and a half ago, I just reread Green Lantern Rebirth that you just mentioned. And I'm
Great
like,
story.
this was so good. I think it was only like 5 issues. I'm just like, this is so good. I should probably talk about this on my channel. And I was just busy and I didn't do it. And I'm like, you know what? I guess I'm just gonna have to read it again and talk about it. And I'm not upset about it. It
Yeah,
was
and
really amazing stuff.
one of the things that I did not expect is that when it comes to me as a kid reading Green Lantern, Kyle Rayner was my Green Lantern. I got to meet Ron Mars. That
Oh
was
wow.
amazing.
Nice. Nice.
Yeah, that was incredible.
Yeah, Ron's good people. Um, I've never met him in person, but he emailed me one time. I did a video and he was just like, I just want to say, I appreciate blah blah blah. I was like, holy crap. I was like, bro, I don't even drink, but first round's on me if you're ever in Toronto. But
Yeah.
he's like really good people. So John Wright is telling me that Justice League is pretty good right now. Do you agree or disagree?
Well, what's very interesting is the fact that we really don't have a Justice League title at the moment. I believe that just ended with issue 75, which
Oh, that
led right
sucks.
into Dark Crisis.
Oh,
But
okay.
yeah, but there was a lot. I had not read any of the Justice League recently, merely because of the fact that I have not been the biggest fan of Brian Michael Bendis lately. Now, don't get me wrong; he has written some great stuff, particularly in the mid 2000s with House of M and all of that stuff. But along with Jason Aaron, I'm trying to figure out what caused these guys to fall from grace because they used to be unbelievably great writers. And I know that you are reading a lot of Marvel. I don't know if you were reading a lot of the Avengers, but not that many people had good things to say.
Who, the Jason Aaron stuff?
Yeah.
My most recent video was about 40 seconds long. I started looking, I was like, okay, let me give credit where credit's due. The writer's Jason Aaron. I'm not reading Jason Aaron crap. And I ended the video.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but
I can't stand that guy.
well,
I just
yeah,
to clarify, I don't have a problem with him personally. I've never met him. I'm sure he's a
right.
perfectly lovely human being, and I'm not saying that facetiously. I'm sure he's a generally wonderful guy, kind to orphans, protects puppies and stuff like that. But like as far as his writing, it's absolutely not for me, and I can't stand it. So yeah.
Well, one of the few things that really made me excited about the fact that this was the topic of discussion was I remembered one of the videos that I watched of yours, and you asked people to tell you about what was going on in Future State. Because the truth of the matter is, that's really where that is the best place to begin in regards to what's been going on with DC.
Okay.
Because for me, I read some of the good stuff that was going on before we had this specific event because I had just finished reading the conclusion of Joshua Williamson's Flash run, which I really, really enjoyed, which started with DC Rebirth. I read the Joker War from James Tynion the Fourth, which was pretty good. But
Yeah, I didn't
then you
complain
got
about
in,
that.
yeah, and then of course you had Jeff Johns' Three Jokers, which I personally thought was some brilliant writing. That was such a great piece. I
Yes.
have gone back and read that numerous times.
I actually still have the cards here.
Oh, I still have them. Yeah, I put them in my comic books.
Nice.
So Future State was very interesting because of the history that was behind it with what originally John DiDio wanted to do before he was officially let go, and Jim Lee was basically in charge of it. And he said, we're not going to do this 5G thing, but in the end, we got this Future State, which was basically a more condensed thing. So I was sort of saying to myself, I don't know my attitude about this Future State thing, and I don't even know if I'm going to want to read DC Comics after Future State, but I was taking a look at what the premise was on some of these titles, and I was curious about some of them. So I said, what's the worst? Let me read them. Maybe I'll like them. Maybe I won't. And I will say there were some bright points in there. And probably my biggest surprise, I mean, Josh Williamson's run on Justice League, those two issues, was not bad at all. I mean, Joshua Williamson
Yeah,
is a great writer. I think the problem with him right now is he's being tapped for almost every big DC project, and they're spreading him way too thin because he's a very talented writer. If people go back and read his Flash run,
exactly.
it's
His
it's
Flash run, I
incredibly
really
good.
loved it. It feels like it just kind of went on after a while. I'm starting to recognize his writing patterns, which I didn't like, but yeah, like he kept it interesting. He kept going. He focused a lot on the trickster. Everything kept coming back there. I'm like, that's surprising. Like very bold choice. Like he wasn't afraid to try new things, and I loved that about him. But yeah,
Yeah.
I saw he was spread out, and I'm like, that's never a good thing.
Yeah, and I think one of the biggest surprises for me were two specific books that I read. Actually, three. I was really surprised by Mariko Tamaki's Dark Detective. I mean,
Mm,
I know that after she took on Detective Comics, I think it's not necessarily because of what she wrote entirely. I think it's also just because of the fact that so many people were pissed off that DC Comics threw Peter Tomasi off of that book, because Peter Tomasi is a fantastic writer. He was doing great things for the Detective Comics title. Why would you throw him off of that book and put
yeah.
Mariko Tamaki there instead? But Dark Detective was interesting. I definitely appreciated the story, and another one that I had no intentions to read, but ended up being interesting to me, and it made me want to read the actual title when it came out, was Jeff Thorne's Green Lantern. It was all because of the fact that there's another member of the community. I don't know if you're a fan or if you know of him, but Comics by Perch. He's a well-known name here, and he had Jeff Thorne on his channel numerous times, right after Future State and right before his Green Lantern solo title hit stores. And I just like what Jeff Thorne had to say. I was very excited because of the fact that Jon Stewart was going to get a lead role in the Green Lantern mythos finally. And it was interesting. I was just ever more curious as to how we got from point A to point B. And so when that officially concludes, then we get Infinite Frontier. And that's when we get all of these new writers on all of these comics. And some people are excited, some people are curious. And that leads into the other book from Future State that was really good. And I think it is the best book in all of Future State. And it was the one shot of House of L by Philip Kennedy Johnson, who would move on to write Action Comics. That was an interesting story because it was all about the descendants of Superman. It was just an interesting thing in regards to the family dynamic and how they perceived Superman as an icon and an entity long after he's gone, or actually if he's a little bit more older than he is now. But that was a very well done piece of work.
Philip Kennedy Johnson is the guy who did Murder Hawk, right?
I think you're right about that.
Okay, with Mike Spicer doing colors on that. I remember because it was just such an unbelievable story that it came out. Anytime I see, the guy doing work, I'm just like, I have to check it out. So no, that's actually cool. The thing you were saying about Tomasi,
Mhm.
they treat him like a rag doll, man. Like I talked to him personally,
Really?
and yeah, in Fan Expo Canada, right up here in Toronto. I remember I was trying to ask him, I was like, "Bro, no cameras or anything, but can I buy you lunch or dinner or something?" And he's just like, "Nah, I can't make you do that." I was like, "First off, bud, with all due respect, I probably make more money than you if all you do is comics, so it's not like you're putting me out. I just want to have a really cool story, and it sounds like you're denying me that." He's like, "No, no, listen, I'll talk, I'll hang out with you, we'll walk around or whatever, but I can't have you buy me dinner, man." I was like, "All right, that's cool, whatever." So we just we were walking and talking, and he has this trench coat on, but it's like cloth trench coat, and like little duster. It looked cool, and almost nobody seemed to recognize him. So like, this is cool, no complaints. And he sat there and he talked to me. One of the things he was talking to me about was when he was doing Super Sons. I said,
Mhm.
"Bro, the absolute hands down best comic book that DC had been putting out and better than most of the Marvel comics was Super Sons, the original Super Sons. It was absurd how good it was."
Yeah.
I said, "What the F happened?" He's like, Well, you know that Dan DiDio put um, Brian Michael Bendis in charge of all things Superman. So Bendis was looking over stuff, and DiDio called me up, and he's like, "So we're taking you off as Super Sons." He's like, "Why are you taking me off as Super Sons? People love it. I love it. Like it's so much fun." He said, "Well, listen, Bendis said that he's got no use for a Super Sons comic." I'm like, so apparently Bendis is now making all the rules and all that stuff, and nothing that Bendis was doing. In fact, everything that Bendis was doing combined wasn't as good, and the community agrees. You know, the Super Sun stuff was the absolute hands down best, and that infuriated me. And I'm like, dude, I'm mad for you. He's like, whatever, it happens. It's annoying. I'm like, "Oh, are you gonna go back?" And I said, "But you're on Detective Comics now, so that's good, right?" He's like, "Yeah." And then we proceeded to talk about Asbury Park because he did a Welcome to Asbury Park issue, and I was like, "Dude, are you from Asbury also?" Because I'm from Asbury, New Jersey. And he's like, "No, but he's living." And we just start talking about everything. He's like, "What's it like now?" And it was like one of the coolest conversations I'd ever had with because like there was no interview, there was no interview voice. It was just a conversation. He is literally one of the most down to earth guys. And if Peter J. Tomasi is on anything, I always recommend that somebody read it because even if they don't like it at first, it's usually like what people say to me about mangas and anime. No, 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 no. You got to get a couple episodes into it or a couple issues into it before you can make a judgment. I'm like, okay, cool. That's how I feel about Tomasi. I'll always give him the benefit of the doubt.
Well, then I highly suggest that everybody get excited for March because Tomasi is going to be doing a brand new title over at Image Comics called Blood Tree under Jeff Johns' Mad Ghost label. I'm very excited to read it. It's a fantasy noir, and all I know is that Tomasi also happens to be good friends with the guy who runs my local comic book shop, so I'm hoping there's going to be a signing in the future because I would love to meet him because I'm so glad you mentioned Superman because what he and Dan Jurgens did for Superman starting over at Superman, Lois, and Clark to try and wrap my head around the fact that DC threw him and Dan Jurgens off of those books is heinous to me.
To give
I
it
just
to
don't,
Bendis
yeah, I
again.
don't
Like,
understand. It was because the fact that they took a version of Superman in the New 52 series that was just not popular with fans and actually to take chicken stink and turn it into chicken soup. That's just something that those two men were so good at doing. And they gave me personally some of the best Superman books that I've ever read. And it's such a shame that this was the turn of events because one of the books that I wanted to tell you about in regards to current DC is how good Action Comics has been since we got started with the Infinite Frontier. Philip Kennedy Johnson has done his hardest to get the stink off of what Brian Michael Bendis left behind. And I personally feel where he is right now, we're almost up to Action Comics issue 1050, a milestone in all of comic books. It's been a fun roller coaster ride. The artwork in the comics have been great. It's been him basically on Warworld trying to liberate the people of Warworld and just finally put an end to Mongols' madness. It's great. Not enough people are reading it, but some people in the comic book community have been telling people you have to read Action Comics. Forget about what Bendis did. Philip Kennedy Johnson is doing what he can.
starting with what issue?
I believe it is I can't remember off the top of my head if it's 128 or 129. I mean
Okay, so late
1028 or
20s.
1029.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay, well, shoot.
Yeah.
You know what? I'll go back and I'll read them. Absolutely.
Yeah, and then of course you had this other comic that I know people in the chat are going to look at me and look at me in a crazy way, but I also have been reading Tom Taylor's Superman Son of Kal-El.
Okay.
And I know that the series is concluding this month with issue 18. And I know that this was something that even made the big news because in issue number 5, the big announcement was that John Kent was bisexual. But
Yeah.
you know something? I read the comic at the end, and it really meant absolutely nothing to the story. I am looking at this whole run in a totally different perspective. And as a matter
Yeah.
of fact, my pal Andy and I are going to do a video about these 18 issues. I personally am just looking at it as here's a kid whose father is Superman. Superman had to leave to go fight a war on another world, and he leaves his son in charge. So you're going to leave a
Oh,
kid who
so
has
it's actually
never.
using that's good that the writers are actually collaborating, even if it's like on a superficial level. That's actually good. I like that.
It was a few issues, yes. At the beginning, it's just a few issues when Superman Son of Kal-El issue number 1 comes out. It's like the first 3 or 4 issues. There's an issue where he actually says goodbye to his dad, which is a very solemn moment for him. But I'm looking at it like here's a Gen Zer who is half human, half Kryptonian, and he has just officially been given the responsibility to take care of the world while his dad is gone. This is not watching your neighbor's dog for the weekend. This is a big responsibility. And at the same time, he's questioning, there's still so much bad in the world. Why could my dad have done better, or could I do something different? It's not like he's trying to tear down everything that Superman is. He's just being a son questioning a father, just like a lot of fathers have seen their sons and even their daughters do. So I look at it more as a human story, as an average person who is just trying to realize that I'm going to be in charge now. How do I do this? Do I do it the same? Do I do it differently? Do I hold back? Do I push forward? And there's an excellent annual of Action Comics. I'm sorry, Superman Son of Kal-El, where he actually meets Lex Luthor face to face for the first time. And you probably know this very well about how Superman and Lex Luthor are always at a game of chess, and how they always beat around the bush and they just let the things stew and they let things move on until they make the next move. Well, John just meets Lex Luthor for the first time and immediately finds checkmate in like less than 2 moves. So it's just like, that's pretty cool. Like here's his son, the son of Superman, not being what Superman was, but being his own version of Superman. I personally have enjoyed the story, just seeing John Kent discover himself. And now we're concluding Son of Kal-El and we're heading to Action Comics 1050. And the 2 comics have officially crossed over again in the story of Kal-El Returns, because obviously Superman is back now. And going back to Future State, sorry for the ramble here, but the fun part about having Future State conclude and having Infinite Frontier begin, now are we actually going to see the world of DC go to where Future State originally said it's going to be, or are they going to do a couple of things to change their destiny?
Okay. Okay. So I've always liked Tom Taylor's writing. I always thought like this guy is the next coming of, the some of the like the next coming of Starlin. We're talking about Mongol. That's a Jim Starlin character, but he's like
Right.
the next coming of Starlin in some ways. Like he's just amazing. This guy comes from down under, saying the freaking everything trying to kill you place, and he's just done some really incredible stuff, right? And justice
Right.
and all that good
Yes.
stuff. And I think a lot of what got to me was when he announced the whole, Superboy is going to be bisexual thing. It was in the wake of so many characters suddenly becoming part of the
Yes.
Pride community where I'm just like, another one, like, you know what?
I
And
agree.
I prejudged it. I'm like, you know what, whatever. I don't care if it's part of the story or not part of the story. I would like there to be a reason for it rather than just, we need sensationalism on this and we need people, putting eyes on it. It's like, dude, the the people will come to it. Talk to us. Talk to the people in the community who review the comic books or who review other comic books and say, hey, listen, man, I would really like you to take a look at this comic book. We're not asking for any money. We want to be able to talk about something good and just bring the stuff, give us a little bit of access. So like if Tom Taylor contacted you and said, "Hey man, I'd really like you to read my comic book, and if you want, you get like 20 issues in. We'll have ourselves. I'll devote like 15, maybe 20 minutes to a quick interview with you. How's that
Right.
sound? Like, I'd be like, yeah, yeah, let's go, dude. I'd love to be able to pick your brain about some of the stuff that you did. Um, So whether I don't know what it's got to do with the story or not, or it's just a sensational thing, but if he's actually doing some good stuff and if it actually means something, he's a new enough character that it's not like, oh man, here's this character that's existed for, 60 years and suddenly you're like if you're gonna make Ben Grimm gay all of a sudden. It's like the guy's been with Alicia since forever and you're gonna just
Exactly.
make
And
somebody gay. It doesn't make sense. They go
yeah,
and they
and I
make
yeah.
the two Johns in the chat right now. They're just like, oh, they made Tim Drake, gay or bisexual, whatever they did to, and it's like they could have just created another Robin. That would have been the easiest thing in the world. Leave the characters the way they are. Create a new Robin. How hard is that? Oh, hey, Damien's being a bit of a jerk. I'm going to need a new Robin. Well, at least see if I can find another orphan kid someplace. Hey, this person happens to be this part of the rainbow. And it's like, awesome. Let's go. Let's go from there. Who's going to complain about that? For the most part, somebody's always going to complain about something, but like, who would complain about creating a new character from scratch and doing that, right? Yeah, I think it was just too much
Well,
doing things for the
what
sake
I
of, look.
yeah, I basically said to a lot of people in regards to the whole Tim Drake and John Kent thing, I said, Tim Drake, they did it because they had nothing else to do with their day, so they decided to just do something crazy and pull it out of the hat. John Kent is an interesting story just because of the fact that it blew up in the media, and at the same time, the media took the story completely and twisted it. Like they said, Superman is bisexual. I'm like, yeah, but you're not saying that this is Superman's son. You're basically telling the entire freaking globe that
That
Clark Kent
too,
is
yeah. There's a
bisexual. So
sensationalism
that was the
stuff.
problem. But again, the thing about Superman Son of Kal-El is the fact that it's not an extremely action-packed comic book. It's a lot of John Kent's self-discovery. Just because of
Nice.
the fact that he's going to college, he's discovering himself. He was still very much a clean slate. Like, we really didn't do that much with him, even though we have
Yeah.
seen him in some excellent work. I mean, everybody fell in love with him in Super Sons and the first bit of the DC Rebirth Superman comics. Everybody loved those stories, but there's still so much to do with him. And I'm just being a realist here. Him being bisexual, being the generation that he's from and the era that we're living in, like, are you really surprised? Like,
Yeah, no, it
seriously,
could make sense. And if they're making it make sense, awesome. Awesome. As long as it means something, as long as like they don't do the thing where it's like gay is his superpower. Like the gay is not a superpower. Give me a break.
no,
You know what I'm
it's
saying?
him. It's a story of self-discovery, and that's what I truthfully appreciated about it. Because, hey, look, if I was the son of a superhero and my father said to me, "You're in charge now," well, you're not going to be, faster than a speeding bullet and more powerful than a locomotive instantaneously. You're going to say, oh, damn, what do I do now? Like, you're
Yeah.
going to think, you're going to start wondering, like, oh my God, I can't screw up. And Tom Taylor has also been writing Nightwing. I haven't been reading it, but apparently it's extremely popular amongst people. People have really been enjoying Nightwing.
Yeah, I read the first issue and I did like it, but I don't know. It was just one of those things where I was reading too many comics at the time. Hey, Federico Blee, Marvel colorist extraordinaire, says we need a drag queen Robin. What do you think?
Hey, something? If someone wants to do it and get paid for it, I say, do whatever. What do I say to people? You do you, wackadoo. Have fun.
Well, I mean, he works at Marvel. He could pull it off.
I have no issues. Something. I'm not the one that's doing it. People can put whatever they want in their comic books. At the end of the day, it's all about who's going to read it. That's what
true.
it is at the end of the day. And I also saw earlier what somebody said about Jeff Thorne. So I wanted to get back to that title eventually, but personally, I found the Green Lantern title interesting. It was a bit of a mystery. Once again, I'm a little upset that it just didn't get the acclaim that I feel it had the potential to get. I mean, at certain points, I felt the story was a little bit convoluted, but I thought that Jeff Thorne was really trying to write a story about John Stewart, because we haven't gotten any of those. And
Yeah.
I feel that it had some shortfalls, but at the end, it just kept me interested and I kept reading it. And I don't really know what's going to happen with Green Lantern now, because I don't appreciate. I was really, really upset with what I heard about what's coming next year with Green Lantern. We're getting 2 Green Lantern books. Philip Kennedy Johnson is going to be writing the John Stewart Green Lantern book, but Mariko Tamaki is going to write the Hal Jordan book. I'm sorry, people, that don't fit. That don't fit. I would have asked Robert Venditti to get himself back and write again, because he's another guy who I feel that DC doesn't understand the power that they have with a writer like that.
His Hawkman series was
Love
amazing.
it.
You
I
know,
loved his Hawkman series.
Hawkman is my second favorite character out of all. Captain America's number one, and when he jumped on Hawkman, I was like, all right, let's see what this guy's going to do. And knocked it right out the ballpark,
Oh my goodness. That ending with the choice that Carter and Shiera got, and they said, we want to go back to the 1940s and join the Justice Society again. I'm like, bravo.
Yeah.
He
And
knows how
what
to
a
bring
great
heart
subway.
to his
And
stories.
and what a great segue, because I saw it in one of your videos, you mentioned it, and I'm excited for it. Jeff Johns is going to be doing the Justice Society of America.
So Jeff Johns, I definitely am excited, because one of the things that he brought to us was Flashpoint Beyond. And I saw someone in the comments talking about it. First of all, the fact that Jeff Johns was asked to come back and do some stuff, was a big thing for me, because I love a lot of his work. I will say to people, if you want to read some of the greatest Jeff Johns work you've ever read his JSA run. It is phenomenal. But
It's great how he took all these old characters, right, that have been around since forever, and then he added Stargirl, who's a brand new version of a new character based off of his sister, and just it combined the old with the new, and it was an amazing way to move forward with great stories.
Right. So the Infinite Frontier, when that began, this was basically DC. I heard this at the end, that apparently the Infinite Frontier saga, they were just planning this to go into Dark Crisis. So they had an intention all along. It was going to start, and then it was going to go into Dark Crisis. So this was when we basically get an understanding of what's going to happen in all the titles. That was the reason why I was interested in reading Son of Kal-El, because Ganthet takes Wonder Woman throughout the DC universe and says that John Kent may be wearing the Superman logo, but he's not the people's Superman. So I'm like, oh my goodness, what's he going to do? So that was where I was very interested. Like, is he actually going to become a villain? So we haven't gotten there yet. So I don't know if we're going to get there, but that's another story. But
if
one
John
of the
Kent
things,
becomes a villain?
Yeah, because apparently Ganthet had said to Wonder Woman that he was going to bottle Metropolis like the city of Kandor to protect it. So I was like, that got me interested. But the point that I'm going here is that the one thing that stood out was the one-shot Stargirl Spring Break special from Jeff Johns. So, of course, I had to pick it up and I had to read it. And I will say, speaking of Stargirl, that's one of the best and probably the only great CW DC show that I've watched. I love that Stargirl show. It's brilliant.
Really? It was good? Huh?
Oh, yeah, because Jeff Johns is one of the producers.
Yeah, all right. Yeah, I stopped watching the stuff. I was watching the Green Arrow. The first two seasons were amazing, and then they just took a dump on them. And I liked the
really
Flash for a while.
I agree. No, Stargirl has been fantastic because it's been all comic stuff all the time. That's what I like about it. So I read the Jeff Johns Spring Break special of Stargirl, really, really liked it. It left me on a cliffhanger where she had to find like these lost superhero sidekicks. And then there was a teaser for something called JSA Past His Prologue by Jeff Johns. I was like, are you kidding me? Is Jeff Johns actually coming back to write the JSA again? And then nothing happened. Like, I was waiting and I was waiting, and it wasn't until we got Flashpoint Beyond, which ties into Dark Crisis a little bit, but all I know is that it led into what he referred to as the new golden age. And so he just this past month wrote three things. He wrote the new golden age, which is a one shot that leads into his other two titles. So we have the Justice Society of America. First issue just came out this week, and I read it. It was not what I expected, but it's basically still keeping me here. Like I say, I want to see where Jeff Johns takes us because I know he loves these characters and I know he's going to do good things with them. The only thing I'm a little upset about is that I found that it's not an ongoing series. I think it's only going to be 12 issues. So I'm a little upset about that. And he's also continuing his Stargirl series with a 6-issue miniseries called Stargirl and the Lost Children. And the first issue is spectacular. Loved it.
Nice. Nice.
Yeah. Yeah.
So when is the JSA coming out?
JSA just came out this past Wednesday. Justice Society issue 1.
What, you mean Tuesday?
Correct. I'm still a Wednesday
bastard.
warrior. I get my new comics on Wednesdays.
Same.
That's a whole other can of worms.
Shoot. Okay. So I guess I better go back and read
Yeah,
that.
just I definitely would say you definitely should check out Flashpoint Beyond first, just because it leads into it, and then read the new Golden Age one shot because it really will set the stage. And yes, Justice Society and Stargirl: The Lost Children, I highly recommend them both. It's Jeff Johns. I don't think he's gonna go wrong. And like I said, he's coming back with all this crazy baggage. You know something? If you've loved his writing, don't doubt him. You know, it really is just going to depend on the editors and if they actually let him do what he wants to do at the end of the day. You know what I mean? Yeah. Because I know he also has started his own independent label, and he wrote a new series for Image Comics called Geiger, and he's currently writing a new one called Junkyard Joe. People are loving it. I didn't really enjoy them as much as the other people that are really liking it. And it's just because of the fact that I know Jeff Johns wants to go back to the golden age of superheroes, and he wants to go back to those fantastic icons like Superman and Batman. Like, that's where his passion really lies. So DC giving him this chance, I just hope it leads to bigger and better things, because believe me, with what DC is doing right now, they desperately need those writers, because they're to let like Peter Tomasi go, to not really do much work with Robert Venditti. You know, what are you doing?
Yeah. Did Johns do Infinite Frontier?
Johns did not. It was another job that was given to Joshua Williamson.
Okay.
Yeah, so Joshua Williamson, yeah, he's been milked, and I think he's pretty much dry at this point, because what has he been doing for like the past year and a half? Well, he wrote the Solo Robin series, which a lot of people really enjoyed. He wrote the Infinite Frontier miniseries, followed by the Justice League Incarnate miniseries, which was tied into it. And then he wrote Justice League 75, which led right into Dark Crisis. And now he's writing Dark Crisis. So he's been doing a great deal of work amongst other projects. I think one of the biggest surprises for me was the fact that he took over Batman for 4 issues. After James Tynion unfortunately left on a whimper, not in the worst ways possible. And it's, I don't know, I have my own thoughts about Tynion at this point in time, and I'm not going to get into them. But I don't know. It's like I was not interested in Fear State. That was his last big story. Just didn't care about it. And maybe that was just because of the fact that even though I enjoyed the Future State Dark Detective, you know, I just didn't really have any need to read that story. But Joshua Williamson took over for 4 issues, and he made a really, really cool story, which actually now led to another new Batman title. No surprise. They brought back Batman Incorporated, and I believe Ed Bryson is writing it.
Oh, okay, nice.
Yeah.
The Future State was Batman was wasn't that originally John Ridley?
Well, yes. I was talking about Dark Detective, but yes, John Ridley is also writing a current series. I believe it's I Am Batman, and nobody's reading it. Nobody's liking it. I know
there was a lot of hype behind that. Everybody I knew was like, dude, it's going to be great. I'm like, okay, because I read that first. He had like a whatever, a 3-issue series of something. I forget what it was. And in this issue, he kind of redid Black Adam, or not Black Adam. Uh, oh, for crying out loud, Black Lightning. And
Right.
I'm like, this is actually pretty good. I really like this. And then I just realized that he was just revamping characters in this thing. I'm like, maybe. But everybody was talking about the Batman. So I'm like, all right, let me check that out. A new Batman. Let me check it out. And I read it. Like, this is booty. I did not enjoy it in the slightest. I'm like, that
Yeah.
is painfully disappointing.
Yeah, I didn't even read the Future State title by John Ridley. I just had no interest in reading about it. And I think what's actually kind of funny is we're about to wrap up Dark Crisis, and in the last issue, Jace Fox as Batman just shows up out of nowhere, and there was like a collective like gasp, like, what the hell is he doing here? Like, why do we need him here? Like, he literally just came out of nowhere on a motorcycle, and everybody's like, why? You know, I found that really funny that everybody was talking about that one scene. And I also forgot to mention that Josh Williamson also started a Deathstroke series called Deathstroke Inc. And a lot of people enjoyed that one too until he officially left the book. But the Robin series got canceled. The Deathstroke series is still going on, but it's not being written by Josh Williamson. When Josh Williamson was writing Robin, Deathstroke Inc., and Batman, he brought them all together in a really fun crossover story called Shadow War. That was just a lot of fun. Nonstop action, great artwork. It was fun.
That's right. I was actually upset that they called it Shadow War because the Shadow War of Hawkman was an amazing 4-issue series that was supposed to go on longer, but tis what it is. Tony Isabella did that, was absurdly good. So they call it Shadow War, and I was like, oh, they're gonna do something with Hawkman again? Another Shadow War? I'm down with this. And then it wasn't. I was like, F this thing. I got a question to ask you. What is best in life?
My
Or
daughter.
what is good in life?
My daughter.
Ah, listen, man, nobody cares about your kid. This was a Conan thing. Silver Surfer
Nah.
just asked, does this guy worship Crom? Well, apparently not.
Nah. I actually, yeah.
No worries,
Don't
no
worry
worries.
about it. Nah. I the only thing that I've gotten from Conan lately is I've read a few issues of Savage Avengers when it was a part of the King in Black series, and him teaming up with Deadpool was just flat out fun.
Nice. Okay, so one of the things that got us talking when we spoke in private before a couple weeks ago, I was asking about Christopher Priest's, just Priest now, his Black Adam run. How's
Yeah,
that?
I'm not reading it, and all I know is that everyone that read it is disappointed to no avail. People are so angry with it. It's got so much. I think it's because there's a lot of identity politics in there. I mean, why does anybody want to? And the story is stupid. It's like it's all about Black Adam finding his replacement. Why do you want to read that?
Why would you want to replace Black Adam? You know, here's the thing. With Priest, all the things like this guy's had so many names and pen names before them, just I can't follow him anymore. This guy's actually been around for a really long time doing comic
I
books.
know.
But I think that the number one thing that everybody was madly in love with that he did was his own series on Black Panther, which was out of control good. Like, whoa, this book has no right being this good, you know? And then he wound up leaving the book because he wanted to do some things that Marvel wasn't happy with doing. So he went over to DC and he started making the Red Lion character in some of the, I think it was the Superman stuff. So he was able to live his stuff and whatever, you know. But after that, I'm sure he's again, it's one of those situations where it's like I'm sure he's a wonderful, lovely guy, but has anybody enjoyed anything that this guy has done since? I mean, he had some
I
things with Deathstroke the Terminator for I don't know if he was calling him the Terminator,
Yeah.
but you know, Deathstroke, and like he was supposed to be fighting Superman, and it was like, oh, this is almost interesting, but it was like coitus interruptus. It just failed to reach that
Yeah.
pivotal moment that we all wanted.
Yeah.
And I'm
Yeah.
heartbroken. And especially I remember Priest got upset with Marvel for a while because they kept on asking him to come back and do like once a year. He's according to him in an interview he'd done. he once a year Marvel would call him up and ask him, "Hey, do you want to do this character, that character, this character, that character?" And every single one of those characters was a black character. And he was like, "Why don't they ask me to do white characters?" It's like I can write a white character too. Anybody can write any kind of character, blah blah blah. So when you say that his Black Adam book is all about identity politics, it's like, really?
I
Him?
don't know. Again, like you would have to. Again, I'm not reading it. You definitely have to really go into the comic book community and see the people who are reading it to get a better understanding of what's going on with the series. But I mean, I wanted to read it because I haven't read enough Christopher Priest. And when everyone I was following said, well, Black Adam #1's out and it sucks, I'm like, oh, well, thank you. I'm not going to waste my money now. So here we go.
Okay, so there's a prediction in the chat. I don't know if Federico realizes he did it or not, but will Black Adam be replaced by Black Eve?
I honestly think, and again, I can't be 100% accurate, so please do not take it, but I believe that his replacement is a person named White Adam. I'm not kidding. I swear to you, I have to find more about this out. And if that is the truth, I will get back to you, but I'm not
And
trying to be funny here.
he's just some Swedish guy.
I don't know. I don't know. I also see somebody's asking me what my favorite comic book character is.
Yes,
Well,
actually, one of the things I wanted to ask you was a top 3 at least, top 5 if you can.
okay, well, I would say it really depends on, for me, the best way to answer it is by company, because I do read a lot of different companies. So I would definitely say when it comes to DC, my favorite one is definitely Green Lantern, especially after reading Jeff Johns' run. Green Lantern became my favorite long before that, just because when Kyle Rayner was Green Lantern, and I said to myself, the fact that you have an illustrator for a comic strip becoming a Green Lantern, like, wow, you're going to bring a whole new dimension to this character. And man, did they. Marvel, I got to be honest with you, I can't say a single person because there's so many. I would just basically say the X-Men, except for what's going on right now. I love the X-Men. Iceman, Nightcrawler, Gambit. Those are my 3 favorite X-Men. Rogue, Jubilee. I love them all. I mean, I have Funko Pops of all those characters because I love them so much. And don't even get me started on how much I love the 1992 X-Men cartoon. On the indie circuit, I have always been a Spawn freak. I am still reading Spawn, and I love Spawn to no avail. Right now, the best comic and image is Gunslinger because it is written by Tom McFarlane and it is drawn by Brett Booth. It is flat out fun, just action-packed.
Nice, the Spawn Gunslinger stuff. He's been talking about doing that for a while.
Oh, and he's doing a great job. As a matter of fact, I read the first 6 issues, and then I stopped reading it just because of the fact that I was more interested in the core story that was going on in the Spawn titles. And then all of a sudden, everybody's saying Spawn 14. It's all about Gunslinger's origin story. If you want to get back into it, get back into it. So I got back into it, and now I'm reading Gunslinger again, and I love it.
Nice. So Kyle Rayner is your first.
Yes. Also, I've realized over time I have just become a big fan of Superman just based on all of the stories that I have read. And, I've always been a Batman fan. The first incarnations of Batman that I ever had in my life, were the Scooby-Doo movies, the Super Friends, and the Adam West Show.
That's funny. Nice.
Yeah. My favorite villain, on the other hand, in Batman is the Riddler. I hate the fact that everyone shafts the Riddler. I don't get enough Riddler in this world.
That's funny. When I went to Asbury Park High School, I used to actually have a button that I would wear of the Riddler. People are like, "Oh, you're a pretty cool guy, but like, fuck you wearing this thing for?" I was like, "Yo, respect Frank Gorshin's name, man."
Not just Frank Gorshin, it's all the people. I always will say that my favorite version of the
You're gonna
Riddler,
say Jim Carrey, aren't you?
No, as a matter
Okay.
of fact, I'm going to say the voice of Don Glover in the animated series, because if you're so smart, why aren't you rich? Is my favorite Batman animated series episode.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. Oh man, that's awesome, dude.
Yeah.
So yeah, it seems like you're really into, and of course you're more than just DC Comics.
Well, yeah, but there's a whole bunch of additional things that I have to say about DC. I don't know how much time we've got, but I also have to talk about one specific comic in DC that I am not reading, but actually am starting to read again because I went to my local comic book store. Matt Rosenberg was there signing new issues of Wildcats #1. He's now writing Wildstorm's Wildcats, thanks to Jim Lee over at DC Comics. Not sure what to say about the first issue, but I'm going to read on because I read the Jim Lee and Wildcat stuff. I had fun with it when I was a kid. But before I leave the store, the guy who runs my local comic book store says, "Hey, Steve, you're not reading The Flash at the moment, are you?" I said, "No." He said, "Well, here's a free copy of this week's issue. Enjoy." So the funny thing is about The Flash, the current writer is Jeremy Adams. A lot of people are saying that, like Philip Kennedy Johnson's Action Comics, Jeremy Adams is the next great writer over at DC writing right now because people are saying that his Flash run is just great. So I read issue 788, which was the one that he gave me. It was the start of a quick story arc, which is going to lead into a brand new story arc called The 1 Minute War, which is going to involve the Flash family. And I was like, I had so much fun with this issue because basically the new mayor in Central City hires the rogues to police the streets and hunt down the Flash. So there's a scene where Captain Cold is in a bank. He's not holding up the bank, but the Flash goes there to stop him, and then Captain Cold flashes his brand new badge and says, "Flash, you're under arrest. I'm taking you in." And the Flash just laughs at him. And I'm like, that is funny. And I also love the fact that Wally West is the Flash at the moment because
I was just going to ask, is it Barry Allen again or what?
Barry Allen right now has been lost in alternate dimensions because of the Dark Crisis story. So Wally West has taken up the mantle again. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
well,
but
cool. So he's redeemed again after murdering everybody. And...
Oh God, I will say I have not read Heroes in Crisis, and because of what people have said, I will never read it, and I don't even want to think about Tom King writing anything DC at this point in time.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Tom King was a huge disappointment.
Yeah, so you got Philip Kennedy Johnson writing Action Comics. Tom Taylor's about to wrap up on Superman Son of Kal-El. You've got Jeremy Adams right now writing The Flash. And the good thing is The Flash, Batman, and Superman are not going to be rebooted after Dark Crisis, which is very interesting. I'm really happy about that. And
say
right
that
now...
one more time?
Oh, yeah.
Which
after,
3 books?
Action Comics, The Flash... And I'm sorry, it's 4, Batman and Detective Comics. Those 4 are not going to be rebooted at the beginning of 2023 when the dawn of the DCU happens. That's what they're doing after Dark Crisis is officially over. So, again, the 2 original Batman titles are 2 of the best titles right now merely because of who's writing them. Because right now, Chip Zdarsky is writing Batman, and I have been loving his first story arc. And Ram V is writing Detective Comics. 2 distinct atmospheres.
Yeah.
The Batman title is just full-on action. And what I love about Detective Comics is Ram V brought the goth back. Like, it's gothic, it's creepy, it's eerie. I like it. And there's a lot of mystery to it. So I've been very much enveloped in those 2 Batman titles.
So it sounds like I've actually been missing out on a lot. Jeez.
Well, we've only touched on the ongoings. I haven't even gotten started on the miniseries.
What miniseries are out that are good?
Well, I completely forgot. My apologies. There was another really important thing that happened in the last few months, and that's the fact that DC asked Mark Waid to come back and start writing some comics.
Oh, shoot.
Right?
Do we know what he's going to write?
Well, right now, he is writing one of the most popular comic books in DC right now, and that's Superman Batman World's Finest. Okay. We're up to issue number 10 now.
Nice. Also,
basically, yeah.
Oh, my buddy Comic Boom is in, and the whole time I've been meaning him, like, at some point he's going to talk about Wonder Woman, right? And I mean, like, one of the world's biggest Wonder Woman fans right here. So what's going on with Wonder Woman right now?
Unfortunately, a lot of bad. Nobody is liking anything that happened in Wonder Woman right now. And the other interesting thing that happened was the introduction of the Brazilian Wonder Woman, who eventually became Wonder Girl. Yeah. They didn't know what to do with this character. Joelle Jones apparently did a good job with the book, but it only lasted 7 issues. And a lot of people were really upset about that. Like, they didn't know what to do with her.
That's like, it's just like one of those dumb things. And it tells you a lot. And that's the thing that kills me. And whenever somebody says like, sometimes people say something like, Bill, you starting to sound like Comicsgate, here and there. And it's like, first, no, I'm not a totally negative guy. That's not who I am. I actually stop reading comic books that I don't like, saying for specifically reasons like that. I don't like to hate read anything. But when you see patterns, I mean, you recognize patterns. When you have a book that it looks like they're just doing a thing for the sake of trying to, look, diversity for why? For the sake of diversity, of course. Well, that's never a good thing. If you've got a good story, then tell the good story. If the race or the gender or the ethnicity or the religion doesn't matter, then don't make it a part of the story. Just make it as simple as, hey man, here's a good story. I want story first, background later, plot later, all that stuff later. And when you tell me, yeah, and I mean, this is my take on what you're saying, but when you tell me that here's this book that people are like, all right, let's go, and you don't have a story to tell, that that just breaks my heart.
Well, one of my big issues that I currently have when it comes to people's political attitudes towards comics right now is I don't necessarily think that a female character has to be written by a woman or a male character has to be written by a man. I mean, Wonder Woman had some of the best stories in the 1990s, like people loved Wonder Woman back then.
Yeah. Yeah, everybody will always tell you that, God rest his soul, the days of George Perez, it's never been better than that,
No, you're absolutely
you know?
right. And
So, yeah,
yeah, and I and
just
I,
for me,
yeah.
like it's not, and created by William Moulton Marston, right? I mean, that right there, hi, created by a guy. Here's a character that the feminist movement loved. Gloria Steinman herself was like, we love the idea of Wonder Woman. She's amazing. Like, this isn't hard. I mean, to me at least, this isn't hard. You don't have to gender assign or religion assign or let's make things like, dude, enough. Just
Yeah, and it's funny
if
because it's
somebody
like,
has a pitch for a good comic book and you like it, then go with that. Do a blind pitch. You know what I'm
right,
saying?
right, and I'm just like saying to people when people say like, women really weren't writing comic books for like the last 10 years. I'm like, did any of you read anything that Louise Simonson wrote over at X Factor in the 80s and 90s? Come on. She was one of the best writers the X team ever had, along with Claremont.
Who's this? Sorry.
Louise
I was reading.
Simonson.
Oh yeah, anything that Louise Simonson has touched has been gold. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And her husband. Like absolutely amazing stuff. Um I think Federico over here is doing the colors for one of these comic books. Mark Waid just wrote a one shot of Dark Crisis: The Big Bang, exploring the multiverse after Dark Crisis, with art by Dan Jurgens and Norm Rappamund. Buy it, please. It
Oh,
says
I'm
to me,
definitely that's on my that no, that's actually on my buy list. I haven't
okay,
bought all the tie-ins, but I definitely am picking that one up because I really liked the last one shot that Mark Waid wrote. It was really really good over at Dark Crisis. That was a good pickup.
really. Yeah,
Yeah.
Boom is saying that Wade and Johns are focusing on writing the good stories and avoiding the political nonsense, which is fantastic to me. That's exactly what the comic books need. For some reason, like Hollywood is still in it. All these different things are like all these different mediums are into this whole identity politics thing. And it's like, do you see it working? Has any of it at all worked for even a moment?
Yeah.
No, because when you don't have a story and you just do, look, sensationalism, that's called a flash in the pan. That usually leads to burnt eggs, you know?
Yeah, so Batman Superman World's Finest, because I'm seeing all the comments. People who are there are also talking about it. They're all loving it. It's basically a few years back, it's Batman and Superman going on adventures. And I remember when I first picked up the first issue, the guy who runs my comic book store, he says, you want to know why this book is so good? Because Mark Waid gets these characters. The best thing about this book is that Superman smiles. And I said, well, shouldn't Superman always be smiling? He's like, exactly. Nah, it's been World's Finest has been such a fun ride, and I saw that Lazarus Planet has been mentioned too. I unfortunately don't think I'm going to read it, even though Mark Waid is on it. I am reading Batman versus Robin, which is tying into Lazarus Planet. That's the current miniseries that spawned out of the Robin solo series and went into the Batman series as
So by
well.
Lazarus Planet, am I hearing Lazarus Pit? This is a Ra's al Ghul thing?
It's sort yeah, that's all going to be revealed to us at the end of this month, I think, or possibly even January. It takes place in Batman versus Robin 4, issue number 4, which is going to then go into Lazarus Planet. So, yeah.
Bro, that is
So,
see, this is why I wanted more eyes on you. Like you're getting me excited for this stuff. Your energy is contagious. You know what I'm saying? Your knowledge, your background on this stuff, it's obvious, and like this is what I'm talking. This is why I want more guys. Take a quick second, pop over to this guy. Hey, when this video is over, I want you to do a quick comment, like whatever, say something, and this way I can
sure.
just pin it to the top. This way people can click on that and go over there and subscribe to your channel. You know what I'm saying?
Sounds great. I
Yeah.
would really appreciate that. Yeah. So outside of the ongoing series, there's also a bunch of mini series that have concluded and some are still going on. There have been some really cool ideas. And I will definitely give a couple of my personal favorites. One by Tom Taylor. He's doing a mini series that started last year. Unfortunately, it's been slogging along and it was coming out once a month. And now it's like coming out every once a month, and then it's coming out every 2 months. I just want to conclude because it's going to be 12 issues. Dark Knights of Steel. It's the DC world in medieval times. It's got a Game of Thrones vibe to it. It's just cool.
Dark Knights of Steel.
It's cool.
All right. How many it was a 12 issue limited?
It's going to be a total of 12 issues. We're only about to read issue number I can't remember if it was 8 or 9. I think it's number 9. But I've been reading it and I just loved it so far. I think it's a lot of fun.
Huh?
Yeah, and then things got even crazier. So when I first heard that this was happening, I was like, you got to be kidding me. Jurassic League. What if all of our favorite
Oh,
DC characters were dinosaurs? And I'm like, wow, could it get any more weird? And then I saw who wrote it. It's
yeah,
Daniel Warren Johnson.
exactly.
And I'm like, if there's anyone that knows how to have fun with comics, it's Daniel Warren Johnson. The first issue, I found myself having tons of belly laughs and smiling throughout.
Really?
Second issue, in the second issue, the dinosaur version of Wonder Woman rides an invisible pterodactyl. I stood up in my room and clapped at nobody, saying, "Bravo! That is brilliantly fun." It was fun.
Man, see, I don't want it to be good because I don't want it to be good. But if you're telling me it's
Nah,
good,
I'm
then I gotta
telling you,
read it.
you don't understand. If it's Daniel Warren Johnson,
I
you know it's
know.
going to be
We
good.
just talked about Murder Hawk, like just one of the best comic books that's ever come out. And damn it, how is it finished now? This miniseries?
Yeah, it's just 6 issues. I want more though. I gotta be
Yeah.
honest. I want more because the world is just. But look, then they're currently doing something called DC Mech, where they're all like giant mechas. I'm like, no, thank you. I'm not
Yeah.
reading this one. I didn't know who the writer was. I'm like, if it was a fun writer, I would have done that. I would have read it. I really would have. But
Because they did that
you
in
got to give me a good
Marvel,
writer.
but I
Yeah.
realized, like, I bashed it without even reading it, and I still haven't read it, but I did walk it back a little bit. I was like, okay, they got a toy license to do it because you see the toys all over the place, so they obviously just did it to promote the toys. All right, whatever, I get it. But one of the things that I've thought of for a while, and Bendis was going to do this, and it would have been a great idea, is make it so that there's a rating on the front of the comic book. So, is this meant for kids? Because obviously, if you see Chibi, there's a Marvel comic book with Spider-Man and Venom, like Spidey and Venom, I
Yes.
think it's called, whatever, where you could clearly tell this is for kids. But there are other books that are probably for kids also, and some that are for adults, and I feel like if they just labeled it and made it very clear, then I think that would do a world of good for comic book readers, you know? I would
Yeah.
like, there are many times that I've gone to the comic book store, you know, just local down here, and I'm just like, I'm looking for stuff for my boys, you know, I'm trying to get them into more comic books, and I just wind up grabbing, like, some of the golden classic books or something else, you know? It's like, yeah, I just want something good. The Sonic the Hedgehog is always a pretty good go-to for them. They
Yeah,
love
a lot of
reading
people
those,
like
but
that one, yeah.
yeah, I don't know. I just want them to do something where it's easy to see, "Hey, age appropriate, boom, buy it," you know?
Yeah. Yeah. So, yeah, those are just a few of the miniseries. A lot of the other miniseries that I've been reading have been all the things that were leading up from Infinite Frontier to Dark Crisis and all of that stuff. Like, I personally had a great time reading Justice League Incarnate by Josh Williamson just because of the fact that I specifically loved the lineup of this specific Justice League because I personally want more of President Superman. I like that character. I want to see more of him.
That's
I
Earth 20
need more Captain Carrot.
that's oh, yeah, Earth 23 Superman, right?
Correct. And that,
Nice.
and that's so funny because I don't know if you heard about this whole thing about J.J. Abrams making a Superman movie and Ta-Nehisi Coates was going to write the script and they were
Oh my
basically going to
god, I
make a
heard that. What happened?
and it never happened, but basically
So it's not going to happen?
at this, let me tell you something. I don't think after what Zaslav has been doing with the Batgirl movie, just to name a few things, I don't think this movie's ever going to be made. And quite frankly, what made me so happy was to see so many people rise up, even a lot of people in the Black community saying, don't do this to Clark Kent. Give us Val Zod. Give us Calvin Ellis, aka President Superman. If
Yeah,
they
yeah.
wrote that movie, I would love to see a President Superman on the big screen. I just
Yeah,
want to see more of that
I don't think
character.
Coates is the right guy for that. Like, there are some people that just and I know this is actually probably getting a little too political, but I'm just gonna say it and feel free to move on. There's some people who are race hustlers, and I feel like he's a
Yes.
race hustler, and it's one of those things where it's like, if things are going good, the race hustlers need to go bad. I was just talking about this with my wife last night. I said, "You know, if I'm a fishmonger and you're not buying fish, I need to convince you that fish are important in your diet as a staple at least twice a week, all that stuff, because I need you to buy my fish. Otherwise, my fish spoils and I don't make any money for it." You know what I'm saying? And it's the
Mhm.
exact same thing with race hustlers. There are plenty of them out there. Even one is too many. And I've realized over time that Ta-Nehisi Coates is nothing but a race hustler, and I despise anytime I see his name on a comic book nowadays, and it breaks my heart that Marvel still employs him for stuff. It's like,
Mhm.
get rid of this guy.
I never read any of his work, but I heard what he did to Captain America is simply shameful.
That was my number one favorite character in all of comic books, and I hated Captain America during that. I'm like, I can't stand Captain America at this point. Absolutely, I almost stopped reading comic books just because of that.
Mm.
Yeah,
Yeah. The only other miniseries that I can think of at the top of my head that happened in DC over the last year was Blue and Gold. It was written by Dan Jurgens. It was
that
an
was the
eight issue miniseries about the team up of Booster Gold and Blue Beetle. I had so
yes.
much fun with it. It was just fun.
You know, I didn't read it, but I wanted to because I thought like the old and Jurgens on it is probably, even though he killed Superman, I figured like he was one of the 5 people who killed Superman. But I thought to myself, you know what? If Jeff Johns isn't doing this, Jurgens would probably be the best person to do this after him. So
Well,
that's
yeah.
awesome.
I mean, he also has written these characters before, so why wouldn't you tap him? You know.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
I also had this other miniseries that came out called Deep Target. It was written by Brandon Adams. Started off really good and just ended out with a fizzle and not with a boom. But it was basically like, what if, in some crazy way, the powers of Aquaman and Green Arrow were swapped, and how do they get back to normal? It was a good idea. It just wasn't what I wanted at the end. It was a cool
That's
idea though.
that's the problem when because like you're talking about the plot, you know.
Yeah.
When you have a great pitch but you don't think it through to its logical conclusion, dude, I could pitch things all day, but if I can't stick the landing, what was the point of writing the comic book in the first place? You know,
Yeah. Yeah.
that's a shame.
Yeah, but the only other thing that I can say that I'm a little bit upset to say is that, once the new year comes around, I don't really see myself reading, because that was so interesting. I didn't think I was going to read any DC comics after Future State, and I find myself having read more DC than any of the other companies out there. This past month alone, almost 50% of the comics that I bought were DC comics.
Wow.
So, yeah, I was really surprised by that. I mean, I really thought that I was going to find myself finding a lot more in the indie circuit with like the Boom Studios of the world and the Scout Comics of the world, but they didn't really grab me as much. DC, maybe it's just because of the fact that I wanted to see the Infinite Frontier saga to the very end, but I really don't know what I'm going to be reading moving forward in 2023. I know I'm going to continue reading Batman Detective Comics until the stories from Zdarsky and V get stale or just they leave the book. I don't see myself continuing with Action Comics after 1050 because I read what's going to happen with it next. And once again, they're going to revitalize they're going to revive the Superman title, just Superman alone, and Josh Williamson is going to write it again. Love Josh Williamson, but my God, give the guy a break. Seriously, give him a break. I just find myself continuing
He's
to read. Yeah, I'm going to read World's Finest. That I'm going to
nice.
continue to read. I think I'm going to read Mark Waid's Shazam in April. That's going to
Oh.
be something a lot of people are excited for.
Oh yeah, definitely. No, I like the idea. I like John's when he was doing Shazam. Like that just seems like his character at this point. But no, yeah, I can see Wade doing that. That's fantastic because I know he loves Superman, and I mean, if you can't write Superman, Shazam's probably the first character that you think of afterwards, right?
Yeah, yeah,
So I love the idea
yeah.
of that.
I'll also see what Black Label has, because Black Label to me has a couple of titles that I got very interested in. Like, I liked Three Jokers a lot. I've been reading James Tynion's The Nice House on the Lake over at DC Black Label, which I've been enjoying a great deal. I bought some of the Black Labels that came out this year, like Josh Williamson's Rogues, which was a 4-issue story. I had a lot of fun with that. It's a classic heist starring the Rogues. Just a lot of fun.
Okay.
I read Ram V's Aquaman Andromeda. If you liked Michael Crichton's Sphere, this has a very Michael Crichton Sphere vibe to it. Very interesting. It's a very
Okay.
unusual tale, like a very mythological story revolving around Aquaman. Very different.
Cool.
And
I like
Black Manta's a
Aquaman, so
badass.
nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, nice. Yeah, I like it when they do something good with Black Manta.
And at the end of last year, one of the writers that I am obsessed with right now is Jeff Lemire. He was starting a 3-issue miniseries called Swamp Thing Green Hell. And I read the first issue and I loved it. And then they just
Really?
never made the last 2 issues. Well, they're making a reprint of issue number 1 in February, and they're finally going to give us the last 2 issues. I mean, I will tell anybody out there, Jeff Lemire is one of the hottest writers out there right now. Unfortunately, you're only going to mostly see him with Image Comics because he just signed a contract to work with them. But he's like firing on all cylinders right now.
Yeah, he's
He
very
is, yeah,
cerebral.
yeah. He is responsible for, it came out last year, what I may consider the greatest Batman story I ever read, and it's called Robin and Batman. It's a 3-issue series. It was incredibly good. And he teamed up with Justin Wynn, who did the art. Let me just say this. If you haven't read it, when you read issue 2, you will just be, it will blow your mind.
Robin and Batman.
Robin and Batman, just 3 issues, no pressure. I've even said that this is a great starting point for anybody that just wants to read a Batman comic.
And this is by who? Who wrote it?
Jeff Lemire.
Nice. Okay. Shoot. Robin and Batman. All right, I'll check it out. All right,
Yeah.
Art Chemist, what's up, dude? All right. Damn. Is there anything else that you want to go over?
I think I pretty much gave you everything that I know about DC. I mean, if you wanted me to go into anything else out there, I will just say right now, the only comic that matters to me in the world of Marvel is Miracle Man. Because, oh
Nice.
man, Neil Gaiman coming back to finally finish his story that got canceled way back in the 90s. I'm just so glad that Marvel actually did something right for a change and asked him to get back together with Mark Buckingham and finish the story that they originally wanted to put together all those years ago. I don't really know what to say about anything else because I don't know if you heard. Apparently, Donny Cates just got up and left Hulk and Thor. So who knows what's going to happen to those titles now?
Huh.
Yeah, he just picked himself up and left.
Wow. Like, is he quitting Marvel or something?
I have no idea, but all I know is that I'm reading a lot of his work outside of Marvel. Like, I'm waiting for Crossover to come back. That's been one of my favorite reads. I have been loving his new title, Vanish. It's Harry Potter meets John Wick. It's brilliantly cool. I can't wait for issue number 3. Actually, issue number 3 came out 2 weeks ago, and my comics book store still didn't get it. So I'm still waiting for it. I mean, I don't want to say anything negative on here, but I have nothing good to say about Diamond Distributors. They're screwing everybody over right now.
Really?
But I don't know what's going on over at Marvel in
Wait,
regards to him.
is
But
it Diamond right now? I mean, you
I
got like,
believe Diamond has got the Image Comics. Yeah,
oh, okay, never mind then. Oh, that's a shame.
yeah.
Jeez.
Yeah, but outside of Donny Cates, which was I was reading, and Miracle Man, I'll just read any mini series that Peter David has given Marvel right now because Peter David is just, he's a legend. I've
Yeah.
been reading his Maestro books. I loved them. I'm gonna read his new Joe Fixit mini series that starts in January.
Nice.
And I read his new Fantastic Four. I want more of it. I just wish that they would give him a title, an ongoing title. I mean, I know that he's got some health issues right now, but I'm like,
Yeah, he's back in the
geez.
hospital, and they started a Kickstarter for him again, a
Yeah,
crowdfunder of some sort.
but I'm just like, why can't you just put him on one of the ongoing titles? I mean, like,
I don't
it's
think
it.
he wants to though, because everything he's doing, even his Spider-Man stuff, it's all like 4 or 5 issue miniseries.
Yeah, I
Like
know.
I don't think he wants to do anything longer.
Well, look, I'm not in his head, so I don't know what he's thinking. But all I know is that people who are reading Marvel Comics right now are all saying, "Why is Peter David not being asked to write any ongoing series?"
I asked him something. I just saw him in Quebec not too long ago, Montreal. He I asked him, but like it's hard to get anything out of him at this point. He's like, "Oh, I'm just having so much fun doing all this stuff. It's amazing. Oh, wow, yeah, I'm really loving it, whatnot." And his daughter, I think it's his third daughter, is like next to him, and she's like, "Oh, yeah, yeah, he's like he's reading a lot and he's enjoying just doing a couple of things here and there, or whatever." And it's like, so you just evaded the question completely. No worries, I'm good. Yeah, it
Yeah,
is what it is.
Yeah, I'm just really curious to see where my reading is going to go next year because, I'm so glad I got back into reading comics. They've truly been a saving grace. I don't know how I could have survived the pandemic if I didn't have all this great amount of
Yeah.
catch up to read. I just been picking up a couple of other back issues lately. I got my hands on Jeff Johns' Superman story, Up and Away. I picked up Superman's Secret Identity. I've been wanting to read a lot more Superman stories. I want to try and get my hands on some of the reprints of Miracle Man because I'd love to read Alan Moore's work. I'd love to read the Neil Gaiman's Golden Age of Miracle Man. I've been reading Peter David's Aquaman. I read Mark Waid's Flash. So many things that I never read as a kid that I finally have been reading. And just like, people may think I'm crazy because you're talking about a kid who had only one comic long box and one comic short box and now has over 20 boxes.
Peter David's back in the that was the 80s? You're talking about the series where he lost his hand, right?
Oh, yeah, in the early 90s, yes.
That was in the early 90s. Okay, yeah. I remember reading that. I'm like, this is badass. I loved it.
Yeah, yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
you want to know how? Here's the funny thing. I started reading the Peter David Aquaman story for the weirdest reason. I gotta say, even though I really should have read it a long time ago, but there was one thing about reading Blackest Night that I never figured out. I was saying to myself, okay, I figured everything else out, but how the hell did Aquaman die? So I had to do so much research. I'm like, how did Aquaman die to the point where we actually got to this point and he got resurrected as a zombie from the Black Rings? So I found out you got to go back to Aquaman Time and Tide, and you got to go all the way to Aquaman Sword of Atlantis issue number 50 to see how he actually died. And
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, now I know how he died.
Yeah, when
I
they had
feel
the
complete now.
alternate, they had the alter. That was back when they were. That was when Hulk became gray, which I love the Gray Hulk. He's my favorite version of the Hulk, of all things. Peter David, go on. But the Thing became a pineapple. Iron Man went and became the Silver Centurion instead of the gold and yellow. He was the silver and yellow. Got like everybody was changed up so much. Everybody. It was like, what the frick? So they started doing it in DC also. Like Superman is dead now, and there's 4 Supermans. Batman had his back broken, so there's Azrael is out now, and I used to have all the Azrael toys. I just put them in my storage. Aquaman, there's a new Aquaman out there. It's like, dude, what the hell are you doing?
Well, something that, listen, that was the 90s. And believe it or not, Marvel and DC had to do something because Image was stealing all their thunder. I mean, that was the big thing, when you got the big names like McFarlane and Liefeld and Lee and Larson and Silvestri and Will Spertasio and Scott Williams, all and I'm Jim Valentino, all these guys creating their own company, like all the best writers in comics leaving.
And they got rid of Jim Shooter, which was,
Yeah.
in my opinion, the dumbest mistake that Marvel has ever
Also,
done.
and what was really, really sad was the fact that, even though Jim Lee and Will Spertasio and were great at what they did, the fact that they basically forced Claremont off of the X books only to see them leave right after they finally got him off the books. That's just sad.
It didn't take much. I know some people are going to be upset. Hey, Caleb, what's up? Some people are going to be upset at me saying this, but what do you call it? Claremont, he was good, but he was good, in my opinion, when he was heavily regulated. Again, he was off of those books not too long after Shooter was gone from the company. And there was an interview that Claremont did with Louise Simonson and, oh, for crying out loud, I know her name. One of the best Daredevil runs ever. Why can't I remember her name? Anyway, they were sitting down and they were talking with him, and he was like, and he actually tried to say something bad about Shooter. And it's like, yeah, he was always stifling me and da 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 da. And they're like, oh no, that he helped you to regulate you and keep you on track, and he held you accountable to some things and da 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 da. And he was like, okay, yeah, no, that's true. It's like, wow, that's the only nice thing he's ever said about Jim Shooter. Go figure. And that's what it took, is people who were there the whole time holding him accountable for,
Well,
for what he'd said. Go
I'll
figure.
tell you something.
If it was up to him, if it was up to Chris Claremont, Phoenix would have destroyed that planet in the Shi'ar territories, and there would have been no repercussions. She was like, there has to be repercussions for that. He's like, no, it was just like a throwaway thing. No, there has to be repercussions for that. And he's like, this is so dumb. I don't want to. And he's just, nope, has to be repercussions. And
Yeah.
look, some of the best stories that to this day still go on is the idea that Phoenix is dangerous. Why? She destroyed that planet. Look, the entire Shi'ar, Imperial Guard came after her because, the destruction of the planet. Yeah, there was a lot more. Oh, he didn't want to kill Jean Grey.
Yeah.
He actually didn't want to kill her.
Yeah, but look at where we are now. Now apparently the Phoenix is Thor's mom.
And that's why I don't like Jason Aaron.
The only good piece of work that I've read from Jason Aaron was War of the Realms. After that, I really didn't touch anything else that he did.
Really? You liked it? I thought it was okay.
There were some parts that were better than others. Like, I liked the War Scrolls story, the stuff that they did with Daredevil. Unfortunately, it sort of got me interested in finding out about the Age of Khonshu, and then I read the Jason Aaron Age of Khonshu stuff, and I'm like, oh, this is terrible. Because I want, you see, that's a character that I want to read more about. Moon Knight. And again, right now, what Jed McKay is doing with Moon Knight, people are absolutely loving. I only read the first 6 issues, and the only reason why I stopped is because that first story arc just felt complete to me, and I didn't feel the need to read on. I loved that those 6 issues just the way they were, and that was that.
Yeah.
I also
Oh, no, it's just really quick. Caleb, I see you mentioning Galactic Storm. At some point, hopefully soon, there may be something on my channel about Galactic Storm. I'm just saying, I love this story. Plus, it's Quasar, and I absolutely love Quasar. He's an amazing character. I know he's a ripoff Green Lantern, but nonetheless.
Mm.
So is
Yeah, but
Nova, and people still love Nova. So.
I also completely forgot about something in DC because we talked about it. I completely forgot to mention Batman and the Joker, the Deadly Duo by Mark Silvestri.
Oh, yeah, that's right. We did talk about, yeah. Silvestri is one of the absolute
Yeah.
best out there. Talk to me about this. Talk to us about this.
Well, I personally love Mark Silvestri as an artist. I mean, like, you think about the work that he did on the X-Men comics. You think about all of those things like
The darkness.
Witchblade and Cyberforce and the Darkness and stuff like that. Yeah, great artwork. But I'm curious to see what he does as a writer and an artist on one book. So it's going to be a 7-issue miniseries, a Black Label. Issue number 1 came out last month. It's the first week of it's the first week of December for new comic books. So Deadly Duo issue number 2 is coming out this Tuesday, and I had a fun time with the first issue. I would really like to see how this story. I mean, I'm getting all 7 issues regardless because my mentality right now when it comes to reading comic books is if I'm not enjoying the story as a mini series or as an ongoing series, let me at least get to the end of the arc or let me at least get to the end of the story because you never know. Because my attitude is, my daughter, she may be almost 7 months old. Does she have to read my comic books? No, she doesn't. But if she's curious and wants to see what they're all about, at least let me give her a whole story to read rather than just bits and pieces, You need that closure.
Yeah. By the way, I know that you really mean that she has to read the comic book, so it's cool.
Well, that reminds me of a great story. My local comic book store, as a matter of fact, it's labeled as the best in Westchester County, New York, where I'm from. And they just hired a whole bunch of new young people in the staff, and they got this young lady who is an absolute delight. She doesn't know anything about comics at all, but she's starting to get into them. So I came with my daughter while I was actually on paternity leave. And so my guy gives me my regular pulls and we go over everything. And then after I officially start packing them up, she goes, okay, so I see what you bought for your daughter. What are you getting today at the store? I just thought that was really cute and witty. Very funny.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay,
No,
I
she's
guess.
starting to read some comics right now and she's really getting into these things. And something I just always say this to people because I'm so glad that I found a local comic book store because I miss those days of going to a comic book store and chatting with people about everything and anything. It's such a great group of people that go to comic stores because you'll talk about everything from comic books to what your favorite pie is. You'll talk about everything and anything there.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's one of the to me, that's one of the staples of the nerd, you know?
Yeah.
Like you have to have a man cave that's not actually in your home. Like this is my man cave. Say that's like what, your living room? But but like my point is like you have to have some kind of a man cave. And especially if there's one that you can go to where others congregate also, it's such a great feeling. Just go there and just hang out and talk.
Yeah, well, I'm sitting right now in the room in my house that everyone enjoys because it's got all the crazy stuff. I got my movies in the back of me, my music overs there in the front. There's Funko Pops all over the place. It is the place to be. People just love being down here, but it's become my man cave because apparently I'm the only one in this house that goes down here all the time.
No complaints, right?
I don't know what your attitude is about Funko Pops, but we were
I've
talking
got
about
one. I've got a
so
Stan Lee one.
So that's awesome. I actually have a collection of a little over 400. That's 9 years worth of collecting. But
Still in the
so
boxes?
there, I take them out of the boxes and I put them back in the boxes. The boxes are perfect because they're great for storage and they're great for display. Because all you have to do is I don't know where you fall politically, but I actually said to my wife when we were house hunting and we came here, I said, when I am able to unbox my Funko Pops, I will go down to a room in our house and I will build a great wall and display them for all the world to see.
It will be a beautiful wall.
Yeah. So out of nowhere, I'm just flipping around the internet because I still follow Funko Pops on Twitter, so I can see all the new stuff. And they make this Target exclusive Batman with comic book shading, and I think it's pretty cool. And I'm like, but I don't think I'm going to get it. And then they give you a mystery silhouette of who the next one is going to be, and it's definitely going to be Green Lantern because they give you the clue. But then I'm looking carefully. I'm like, this is going to be Kyle Rayner, I think, because they don't really make them. And so then the next week they reveal Kyle Rayner, and I'm looking carefully because I'm going to pre-order it because I need a Green Lantern Funko Pop. And then I take a good look at the Green Lantern with comic shading, and then I look at the Batman again. I'm saying, wait a minute, something's interesting here. And I go to a couple of pictures on the internet. Could it be? Are they actually making the 1997 Grant Morrison Justice League lineup? And they are.
Oh wow, that's interesting.
They revealed Batman, Green Lantern, The Flash. They look like the poses on issue number 1. Same thing with Wonder Woman. And then I'm saying, now I just got to see what Superman's going to be. Long-haired Superman came out the week after, and the week after that, they revealed long-haired and bearded harpoon hand Aquaman from Peter David. And I'm like, oh my God, this is why I love that company so much, because they know how to grab the fans. I have one of the new collections that they've made now is comic covers. So you have a box display of a comic cover on the back of it, and then a pop that resembles the character on that specific cover. I have an Action Comics number 1 and a Batman 423, which is the first Todd McFarlane Batman. I'm a diehard Todd McFarlane fan. Batman versus Spawn comes out in 2 weeks from DC Comics. Get ready for it.
Really?
Oh yeah,
Again.
Todd McFarlane and Greg Capullo. So the 1-2 punch, definitely worth getting. And
wow.
Out of nowhere, they made a Walmart exclusive of Brave and the Bold 28, the first appearance of the Justice League. And I don't know how they did it, but they made this beautiful sculpt of all 5 of the Justice League members fighting Starro in the box. I'm like, I had to get it.
Wow. That is awesome. Oh, you know something that bothers me? We don't have a Jarro plushie.
Yeah, that's true.
Why is there no Jarro plushie?
I have no idea.
Things like some things they completely boggle the mind. I need a small purple starfish in a glass jar. Whatever. It is what it is. Maybe wearing a Batman costume or a Robin costume, I think he was wearing. Whatever. Anyway. All right.
Yeah.
Well, this was fun.
Yeah, I am so glad that you let me join you. I mean, these are the kinds of conversations that I really enjoy having. When I first started bringing comic books into my first YouTube channel, I had a good friend of mine that's been close to me since age 2. And when I found out that he was still collecting comics and he's actually introducing them to his 3 boys, they love collecting comics too, I said, you and we have to start talking about comics once a month on my channel. Unfortunately, he hasn't had the time. I've been trying to find someone to come onto my channel over at That's Comical and just talk about the past month in comics. What did you like? What didn't you like? What do you recommend? Because the thing I love so much is that you can stay in the loop as much as you can. And there's so many people in the world, in the comic book community, talking about big topics in comics. But I'm like, I have something to say. I want to share my thoughts with other people. Unfortunately, even though I have 4 other people on this channel, we don't always have the time. Some of us are not into comics as much as they're into anime. Some people are still very new. I just don't have that seasoned person at the moment who is able to dedicate that time.
Well, if there's a certain time period that we could do it and you can make it a segment in the show,
well, that's
then I wouldn't mind.
If you go to my channel, take a look at the playlist, which is the original footage. You'll see the original things that I was doing on my channel, which eventually would spawn into its second channel.
All right, cool. Yeah. All right, we'll put a pin in it.
Sounds good. So, how would you like me to go? You want me to give everybody the links and all that stuff?
Oh yeah, do it again.
Okay, so everybody, my name is Steve. I am the YouTube's friendly neighborhood lawn gnome. If you're interested in seeing what I've done over here over the last couple of years, you can check out my original channel, which is just called The Lawn Gnome. It's a pop culture haven, and there's a lot of interesting things there. Everything from movies to music to Disney stuff. I had conversations about everything from Star Wars to politics with other content creators. It was such a fun 10-year run, but I'm still there, still doing a couple of things every now and again. But now I have the second channel, which is That's Comical. Comical is spelled COMIC-CAL. And that is me and 4 other content creators. We're still getting it off the ground. It's only a year old, this channel. We're just hoping for bigger and better things from there. And more importantly, our overall goal is not to just talk about the great things that we love about comics and manga and all that wonderful stuff, but we also are people that believe in community. And we do want to try and reach out to other fellow content creators just to geek out. That's what we want to do. That's what we love to do.
Nice.
Yeah.
All right, dude. So, like I said, make sure you post that thing in the comment section when the comment section allows it, and then I'll pin it, and then everybody can get over there and, like I said, get some more eyes on your channel,
I appreciate it,
guys.
sir.
Hey, no worries. Hey, stop that sir crap. So, guys, it's been real. It's been fun, and hell yeah, it's been real fun. So, I'll talk to all y'all later. Stay on with me, and we'll talk.
For
And
sure.
guys, we'll see you, I guess, Wednesday. Professor Bill and comical over here. Uh, Professor Bill, Comic Book University. Class dismissed.